Hey, welcome into the Stinkin Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside Mike Evans. Wildcard Weekend is in the books. A lot of stuff going on in the National Football League. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, but look at this.
Oh, by the way, and we'll pick again. We'll do another podcast later. You were 3-3 in your picks. You started them off.
Yeah.
I went opposite on a couple. I was 4-2. So much like the regular season, I am kicking your ass in the postseason in picks against the spread as well.
Well, hey, while you're patting yourself on the back and taking victory laps,
Sure.
how about them Cowboys?
I was reminded when Awful Announcing reposted something from I think it was a September 2nd podcast that you and I did.
I remember it distinctly. It was right at the start, and you said what you said. We'll talk about it, but you said it, and I was like, whoa, wow. This will be interesting, and you get the last laugh.
Yeah,
I
get to take
You
my
just
victory.
do.
Like I've told you this many times before. I'm a really gracious loser, but when it comes to winning, I'm a dick. And I felt like I won this round again, and it all stemmed off of when Jerry Jones. And here's the problem in general with the Dallas Cowboys, and this is what the gist of the article was, or what they copied and pasted out of this Stinkin' Truth podcast, was that as long as Jerry Jones owns the Cowboys, they're never going to have postseason success because he appoints coaches. He doesn't empower coaches. He doesn't empower the people underneath him. And all I had to see was Trey Lance getting traded to the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy, the head coach, and Dak Prescott, your, franchise quarterback, had no idea. Like, he showed up in the locker room and they didn't know he was coming. Like, how in the world can you operate your organization when you don't empower the people in charge? Because I'm a player, right? I'm a former player. We are children. You work with me every day. I'm a child.
He ain't lying.
No, I'm not. I'm not lying. I'm an absolute child, and it's like having a substitute teacher. What are you going to do when you have a substitute teacher? You were there,
Yeah.
right? You're going to press and see what you can get away with. You're going to switch seats and pretend you're somebody else, and you're doing all that kind of stuff. That was a grade school stuff. That's how we are in a locker room. So if you know the coach doesn't truly have authority, how much respect do you actually give that guy?
But how does that explain what happened in the playoffs, though? How does that explain after winning 16 in a row at home and 12 games during the regular season and late season momentum, you take advantage of the Eagles' collapse. How does that explain just a complete no-show against the Packers?
Well, I mean, your coach came out and said we weren't prepared to play. How can you not? It's playoff. How can you not be prepared to play in a playoff game? Here is verbatim what I said. The Cowboys are going to be a dominant regular season team. They're probably going to win the East. They're going to be in the playoffs, and then they will shit in their helmets during the playoffs. And what do? They literally not only they shit in their helmet, they shit in their pants, they shit in their helmets, everywhere. I mean, that was explosive diarrhea, and it was pathetic. That tip of the cap to Green Bay Packers and the way Jordan Love is playing, and he's playing great football right now. Good for him, but that is a colossal collapse. That is as bad as it gets.
Can you keep McCarthy?
Okay, well, my initial thought would be no, you can't keep McCarthy. But then I think, well, what are you going to do? You're going to replace him with somebody else you don't empower. So what good does that do for you? If you're Jerry Jones, what good does that? You're not going to empower a guy. Jerry Jones, since Jimmy Johnson got the credit, and Jerry Jones couldn't stand him getting the credit for those unbelievable Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl teams that won 3 championships in 4 years or whatever it was. Like he couldn't stand that he got all that credit. So since he fired Jimmy, he's never empowered a coach that he's had. It's always like, what other owner? Give me one other owner or GM that does biweekly radio shows in his local market. Who?
Yeah.
There is none.
There is none.
Who else holds press conferences in the locker room after games? Give me another owner that holds the press conference in the locker room after the game, every game. Jerry, he's the only one. And I don't know how that manifests itself into playoff losses. I don't know exactly how that works. I just know that you have to have an organizational structure. Owners own, coaches coach, players play. The owner's responsibility is to sign checks and get out of the way for the football people to do football stuff. And when you mess with that, and when you throw the access of the football world off course, and that's the Dallas Cowboys in a nutshell. Is what's going on with the Washington Redskins / football team / Commanders since Daniel Snyder took over that program. You can't win with those circumstances.
So for all this talk about Belichick, and I mean, it was all over the place as the game was going on and the blowout was on. You were getting all kinds of Belichick stuff trending on social media. But back to your point, do you see Jerry Jones giving up the kind of control that a Bill Belichick would demand and be able to get from somebody else? That's why whenever I hear this talk about Belichick to Dallas, I don't buy it because
who's Belichick's mentor?
Bill Parcells.
How that work in Bill
Not
Parcells?
well.
I mean, the story goes, and I don't know, I can't confirm if this is true or not, but the story that I've heard, and you think back to the press conference, you covered those press conferences. You were in Dallas for a while when Bill Parcells was there. How did he refer to Terrell Owens? Do you remember?
No.
The player.
Oh yeah, well,
he never used his name.
Yeah. That's a Parcells, Belichick, Sean Payton thing. Yeah.
Right. Well, the T.O. thing, the player, was that my understanding, and again, you'll have to confirm this on your own. You have to do your own.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just the story. This was the rumor that permeated the NFL at that time, was that Bill Parcells didn't want T.O. He had no desire to have T.O. on his team. Jerry Jones wanted him. Bill Parcells said, absolutely, I don't want him. I don't want him here. So they agreed that evening that they weren't going to sign him. Next day, he shows up in the locker room because Jerry couldn't help himself. Right? Jerry saw get your popcorn ready. And now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the rumor that, like I said, permeated the NFL. And then from that point forward, Bill Parcells never referred to him in the press conferences. T.O., he called him the player. Go back and watch all the press conferences. And so, and again, I'm not trying to spread rumors, but that was always the thing that was out there. But you could see Jerry circumventing the authority. Like Bill Parcells, is Bill Belichick's mentor. He's not gonna go to. I can't imagine him going. Yeah, I'll go to Dallas and Jerry, you can do your TV shows and you can do your radio shows.
Right.
You can circumvent my No, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, Bill Belichick coaching and Jerry Jones is doing 2 radio shows a week or is holding a press conference in the lot. Yeah, Belichick would be like, get out of here. Well, Dallas at least can share the misery with Philadelphia. Mark, what the hell happened in Philadelphia? Super Bowl team, and you think, okay, maybe they'll have the Super Bowl hangover, having lost in the Super Bowl. Nope. They go 10-1.
Right.
They lose both their coordinators, no problem. They shake that all off. They bring new people in. They're 10-1 and cruising. They end up losing 6 of their final 7, bottoming out against the Bucs. What the hell happened?
Yeah. That's the old there's a turd in the punch bowl. Like what? I don't know what went down, but something obviously is not right. And you saw on the sideline, listen, on the sideline, you get in a tete-a-tete with the coach or with another player. It happens. We've all seen the video of Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday yelling at each other, right? And I mean, those things happen. I saw Dallas Goedert stand up from the bench and looked like he was yelling at Jalen Hurts, and some of that stuff. I take that stuff with a grain of salt to a degree because in the heat of the moment, some of those things go down. But come on, man, there's got to be something that's deeper than coaches. And I can look at like, hey, last year Philadelphia led the league with over 70 sacks, right? And this year they haven't produced that. Well, I can look at the offense and say, okay, well, let's look at the offensive coordinator, right? Brian Johnson takes over from Shane Steichen. Now, there's part of me that looks at it like, okay, back to your first year, Nick Sirianni, head coach. Your first year, you're 2-5. Your play calling isn't great. You relinquish your play calling. You give it to Shane Steichen. You guys make a playoff run. Now, I have talked to Justin Herbert. I have talked to multiple coaches. I talked to Gardner Minshew about Shane Steichen. They've all said the same thing. He has a way about him of taking very complex kind of concepts and making them very easy, if this, then that, for quarterbacks. And so I think all of a sudden you lose some of that connectivity you have as a play caller / quarterback. The other thing was, you look at Philadelphia a year ago, they were one of the top, if not the top team, rushing the football. They ran the football. They ran the heck out of the football with Miles Sanders, and then obviously the quarterback run stuff, then the play action and the RPO action off that run game. They were exceptional at that. And I look at that wild card game they had. I mean, Swift gets 2 carries, the first 2 carries of the game. Then he doesn't touch the ball again until like 11 minutes left in the second quarter. Like, how do you guys get away from that? And it comes down to this for me. And Brian Johnson might be great. He may be a great, but there's guys who call an offense, and then there's guys who call plays. And I felt like that was part of their issue. And then the complementary nature of football, all of a sudden you're not possessing the ball. You're not running the ball down people's throats. You're not building a 10-point lead. You're always close. What happens? You eliminate opportunities for your team to do what they do best, and that's rush the passer. Because all of a sudden you're not in third down and long or second down and long all the time. Now you're in third and shorts, and they've got multiple things they can do to you out of those deals. I watched a breakdown that Dan Orlovsky did, and I love Dan's stuff. Dan's a friend. But it was a 3rd down and 2 where you're playing against Tampa. It's 3rd and 2. You know you're going to get blitz. You got press corners. You've already motioned it back out and motioned it back into the field where the linebacker went out. Levante David went in and out with the back. You know you got man-to-man press situation there, and you're getting 0, right? Todd Bowles bringing the heat. And every route combination you had was a deep route combination on 3rd and 2. Like on one side, you just run double slants. Double slants is a man-to-man beater. Or you motion somebody and you run drag flat, right? You run a pick play. You create right on the line of scrimmage. And they're running everything vertical. Like how does that even make sense? And so there are a lot of issues from a coaching staff standpoint. But my thing with Nick Sirianni would be, why did you not step in? Why did you not you made a desperation move and moving off of Sean Desai and going to Matt Patricia. Why did you not relieve Johnson of his play calling duties and you take over again? Like, there's a lot of things that stink in Philadelphia right now. And a lot of blame, a lot of fingers to be pointed.
I guess in this case, it isn't always sunny in Philadelphia.
It's a great call. It's a great call by you.
No. Miami was very happy to get back to the sun, weren't they?
Ooh.
Like, you tell me as a former player, because just as a fan watching, I saw a team that didn't want to be out there.
Yeah.
I saw a team that did not want to be out in the cold, and they literally looked like a team all afternoon, all evening long that was just looking to get back onto a warm bus. How's that happen?
Yeah.
In a playoff game?
One of the things I always say is talent's wasted on talented people. There's an aspect of this game that is pure toughness. All balls. And, although your balls shrivel up in that kind of cold,
they do.
Yeah. It is one of those things, man. You got to have dudes. And the other thing is, you can't be a team that all your stuff, all your plays, all your concepts are related on we're more talented than you. Because especially come playoff time, when you play against other good teams and you play against the elements as well, and all of a sudden that talent on that field condition, on that turf, in that cold, all of a sudden it levels the playing field, then you get exposed for not being able to grind it out. Like when I watch the Miami Dolphins, the majority of everything they do is in the run game, for instance. Perimeter toss, pitch, what we call in the West Coast often the transportation series, get outside, crack toss and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's based on speed and athleticism, and then it's not just downhill. We're gonna drive you off the football. So, and then you look at them playing with leads and being able to there's a toughness element to the Miami Dolphins that just doesn't exist. And sometimes I would ask you, environmentally, I get the same thing with the Chargers. Like back when they played in San Diego, I go, the problem with the San Diego, we're playing a Super Bowl there. And it's just glorious, right? January.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Beautiful out.
San Diego? Oh.
Our practices were flying around. Our practices are sharp and crisp. You get done with practice, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's freaking gorgeous out. You go down to La Jolla, get yourself a cocktail. like when you play in New England, or you play in Denver, or you play wherever, where it's just like Seattle, or you play even in San Francisco to a degree. Like in November, things aren't going well. The coaches are up your ass, just up your ass, and the fans are on your ass, and everybody's calling, what's wrong with you guys? And then you get done with practice and you watch the film, you get in your car and it's freaking pissing sideways and it's cold and it's nasty and it's gray and life is just miserable. And the only way to fix it is to get a victory somehow. Just a victory, man.
I gotta work a little harder.
Right, I just gotta. And you played in San Diego or in Miami, you like walk out and you're like, hey, life is good. Let's go have a cocktail. Well, we were playing in Miami, Super Bowl in Miami. We back to back. I mean, so many Super Bowls, they all flow together.
Yes.
So we were playing the Super Bowl in Miami, and I will never, ever forget it. I'll never forget it. So we come back to practice. We have Tuesday night off, and Monday night we did like player whatever. Like we went out and had dinner together as an offensive line group and everything else. Then Tuesday, we had the day off or whatever. And so we show up to work on Wednesday. And one of my teammates, I think I'll just leave his name out of this, but he played on the defensive side of the ball. And he wrote on the grease board, there's a big grease board just giant grease board in the locker room in Miami. And he put up the 10 top reasons that the Miami Dolphins will never play in the Super Bowl. And they listed the 10 strip clubs that he'd been to. And he goes, there's no way you could focus on football here. Like, there is no possible way. And, I think that's my theory about these teams that play in these pristine, beautiful conditions.
Plus, you also had, Mike McDaniel. I think everybody likes Mike McDaniel.
Sure.
Former ball boy for you.
Yeah.
And he was kind of a breath of fresh air. But there was an element of the way he kind of carries himself that, he's the he's kind of reinventing football.
Yeah, kind of anti-Belichick,
and he's wearing the, short pants and he's running off the field and he's mic'd up for Hard Knocks and he's like, I think we're going to get a touchdown here. And there's this real, like, he's kind of reinventing football, right? And it wasn't just him. People were really latching on to the idea that, wow, Mike McDaniel is really a breath of fresh air and he's bringing a whole new look to it. And so there was kind of an element for me of like, it was kind of good to see him get his comeuppance, if you will, to just kind of remind everybody that the ways that people have always won football still work today in the playoffs in bad weather. And, he and the Dolphins kind of got exposed for that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And there was part of me that was kind of like, it's good to know that the old ways still work.
I just think, I mean, you look at Wildcard Weekend.
Yeah.
You look at every team that won. What do they have? Quarterback who absolutely picked people apart from the pocket. Stayed on schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Teams that ran the ball. Like you look at Houston. C.J. Stroud had 21 attempts. That's it, 21 attempts. Ran the ball more than they threw the ball. Look at Green Bay. Jordan Love had 21 attempts. Ran the ball more than they threw the ball. Like, it's as much as we try to morph it into college football, it's not college football. It's professional football. And it's played on a different field with different hash marks. And it just changes the way the game is played. The other thing you have is every team from a roster standpoint is created equal because you don't have 5 teams that get all the good players. So you just can't out-athlete people in the National Football League. And so it just is it's a different animal. And I know that all the, analytics geeks and all the college football freaks try to make the NFL college. It's not college football.
Yeah.
It's different. And, in having a guy that can operate from the pocket, having a guy that understands that the feet of the quarterback generate offense, right? The timing of the offense has held the quarterback's feet. And the timing of the passing game and the rhythm of the passing game is held the quarterback's feet. Like, I always say this about a team that's a finesse football team. You know what you can't do? Finesse yourself back into a rhythm offensively. My experience in the NFL says you cannot, when you're rolling and your passing game is great, awesome. You can stay in rhythm. But you know what happens when you get out of rhythm in the passing game? You can't finesse yourself back into it. You know what you got to do? You got to line up with fat people. You got to get 2 tight ends. You got to get a fullback. You got to get a running back. You got to beat people up, bludgeon people up, force them. I remember Mike Shanahan all the time being offended when we're playing teams, offended that someone would try to play us in 2 high safeties. Are you fucking kidding me? 2 high safeties? We're going to run that. We'll bludgeon them out of that. We'll get we'll get a single high safety up there. We'll get one-on-one on the outside, and then we'll cut them up in the passing game. But how dare you try to play me in 2 high safeties? Like today's NFL. It's the Vic Fangio effect, right? We're going to play shell, right? And we're going to, are you kidding me? We're going to beat your ass. But too many teams aren't constructed that way. There's too many guys that think they're smarter than everybody else, right?
It was like in the case of McDaniel, like we see the influx of analytics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people look at analytics in all the other sports. And it was almost kind of like McDaniel, and I know this is probably being unfair. Mike McDaniel's a good football guy. But it was almost like the analytic guy all of a sudden got to coach a football team. He got to come down from the front office where he hangs out with all the other analytic nerds. Yeah. And all of a sudden he was given a whistle and a play sheet and allowed to go coach a football team. Yeah. And so there was part of me that's like, I don't know if I want to see the analytic nerd succeed.
He's a brilliant football guy. Yeah,
I'm generalizing and I'm using McDaniel kind of as a stereotype, but
no, he's definitely a brilliant football guy. But it just was, it just is one of those situations where that stuff, a lot of that, just kind of, we're gonna trick you, or we're gonna out coach you, or out scheme you, out X's and O's you. It is great during the regular season. It's great in September and October when it's nice out. But, and this is what I love about the NFL. At the end of the day, it's who captures and wins the line of scrimmage. And that's really what it boils down to more than anything else.
So the old school, new school, there's nobody more old school than Mike Tomlin. There's nobody more old school.
Wait a minute. 1 second, really quick.
Yeah.
Just to interrupt you. Speaking of that Miami-Kansas City game.
Yeah.
Are you going to get to Kansas City?
Do you want to talk about Kansas City?
Yeah, they
do play this week.
Okay. Yeah, so let me just say this. Like,
quick thought on Kansas City?
Quick thought. 1, is how in the hell do you not stop a game when your quarterback's got a gaping chasm in his helmet and the helmet's broken and clearly cracked if you're all about player safety? Like, if a guy gets dinged, we send him off the field to the independent neurologist to check him out, right? To make sure that he's good to go before he's allowed to check back in the game. How in the world, what did Patrick Mahomes with that broken helmet play another 3 plays before they, with the helmet, how's the official saying, no, dude, sorry, you got to go get a new helmet? Like, how does that even happen?
Meanwhile, they're stopping the game. You know, he's checking out one helmet, checking on another one.
Right.
You're not supposed to be allowed to do that.
Yeah,
you got to come off the field, put the backup quarterback in, the game goes on. But
I broke a helmet in Green Bay, freezing cold ass game, freezing ass cold. And now it wasn't the helmet, it wasn't the plastic part, it was a face mask that snapped. So it was just dingling around, right? So I take it off between plays, I chuck it to the sideline, and another guy chucks me his helmet. It was Ralph Tam, grabbed your jaw. It was like a bobblehead helmet, right? It was way too big. First, and the other thing about playing in that kind of cold, right? He's standing on the sideline with that thing. So it's like putting on an ice tray out of your freezer, like clunk. I mean, it was miserable. Played the rest of the series, however many plays that was, 3 or 4 plays before, we ended up punting. We were getting our ass kicked. And while they were fixing my helmet on the sideline. But, like, how in the world can you be allowed to play with a broken helmet?
Because you're Patrick Mahomes,
like,
Mark.
Apparently.
The rules don't apply to you.
Dude, I hate the fact that I'm about to say this. I really do. Kansas City's a problem. I think Kansas City.
Did they flip the switch?
Yeah.
They did?
I think.
They just sleptwalked through the season, and now they're back.
Patrick Mahomes has the best defense he's ever played with since he's been there. The best. All of a sudden, Isaiah Pacheco, that dude is he's like a banty rooster, man. He's just like, he's doing this, walking through there, going through the line of scrimmage. That guy's got a little
Cock of the
stinger.
walk?
Yeah, cock of the walk. He got a little stinger going on. He's running hard. And then all of a sudden, Rashee Rice, 130 yards receiving last week, 8 catches, something like that. Travis Kelce had 71 yards receiving, 7 catches maybe. 7 catches, 71 yards, and dropped like 3 balls. Dude, they feel like they flipped the switch. And they've got...
But hold on, let me interrupt because I know what you're saying, but do you realize this week's game at Buffalo
is the first
time Patrick Mahomes has ever played a true road game?
Right.
Not Super Bowls.
Super Bowls are neutral sites.
Right.
Yeah, he's been at home every time. Yeah.
So
he lost one AFC championship to New England on the offsides penalty.
Yep.
Brady gets intercepted, and I can't remember who was lined up offsides.
Poe. Was it Poe?
No.
Chris Jones?
No, he wasn't there. Chris Jones wasn't there at the time. It wasn't Tom Ali. It was D Ford.
D Ford. That's
D
right.
Ford.
Good call. Yep.
D Ford was offsides.
Yep.
And then he lost in an AFC championship to Joe Burrow. But he's played every game at home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable.
But you think I think Buffalo's been. This is their moment. This is Buffalo's moment. They're at home. They're in front of the Mafia. They got momentum.
They had a bunch of injuries on the defensive side.
They did, but they got Mahomes now coming to their place. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Right. Later on in the week.
You could pick against me again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I picked first this time.
Okay, fine. All right, we'll get into the Bills. But one thing that came out of the Bills game that I'm curious, Josh Allen did the fake slide and kept running.
He did. He kind of, and then he popped back. He didn't go all the way down, but he kind of stopped.
You saw the defensive players. They were anticipating.
Mm-hmm.
So is this something the league has to do? We see Mahomes do this a lot of times. Mahomes will run along towards the sideline.
Act like you're step out of bounds.
Everybody backs off because they know they can't touch him, and then he'll end up, scooting another 3 or 4 yards.
Yeah. So my thought process on that, and this is part of just the era I grew up in.
You're going to offend some people, aren't you?
Well, I don't think all. Well, no, I don't
Some.
think. Well, some, yeah, just the snowflakes. But
Okay.
this is where, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I was saying, hey, guys, we can afford 2 personal fouls in this game. And I want you to decapitate the quarterback. If he's going to pull that bullshit, we're going to hit him. And, later on in that game, Miles Jack get called for a personal foul when he did slide, but it was late and Miles Jack was already kind of in the air, and he even tried to pull his hands up. But he hit Josh Allen. Josh Allen throws his arms up in protest, like, oh! Like, dude, you're 6'5", 250. Stop it. So my thought process, and you think about all the good defenses back in the days. You go back to the 85 Bears, the 2000 Ravens, the 2001 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks, and the 2015 Broncos. There were probably 2 personal fouls a game that they felt like they were like, okay, we're going to cap this thing at, 1.5 or 2. Anything over that, you're going to cost us opportunities. But there's an intimidation factor there, and there's a send a message factor there. And if I'm Kansas City, I'm saying if Josh Allen takes off and runs, and if it's anywhere close, absolutely lambaste his ass. We'll take the 15-yarder.
And conversely with Mahomes along the sideline.
Absolutely.
If you're the Bills, same thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of those situations where quarterbacks are taking advantage of the protection, and that's garbage. So make them play football. This is why quarterbacks should not be allowed to win the MVP. They don't play football. They play quarterback, and I don't like it.
Gee, I can't tell.
So
Jeez.
a little frontier justice is due. Like, you should. If you want to play that little game,
Yeah.
You're going to play that little game, well, we get to play too. And, I mean, think about it, how hard it is as a defensive player to be in the right situation. It's like, and to try to parse everything. Am I too high? Am I too low? Am I, it's just not, it's not a good thing. And I even watched the game that Chris Collinsworth called where I can't remember who got hit in the knee on a
Higbee.
Yeah, and he tore his ACL, right? Yep. It's like, you ask any player, man, they would much rather DBs go chest high than at the knees.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I know we got all, freaked out about head trauma, which I think there's a lot of, I'm going to be careful. It's important, but I think there's a lot of things that haven't been actually looked at that I'm not going to
Topic for another day.
Yeah, well, let me just say this. They science looks at it like, CTE, you play football, CTE, freak out, kill your family, blah, blah, blah. They don't look at, like, what role does depression play in this? Like, you leave and you no longer can play, and that's all you've done your whole life. Like, is there a moment of, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life? Is there a moment of, of that? How do drugs and alcohol affect brain health and all that kind of, like, all these different, like, how does being addicted to opiates, where painkillers were a big thing in my day. In my day, they'd walk down the plane and hand you painkillers. When I first got in the league.
Yeah, like M&Ms.
Yeah. How many do you need?
Yeah.
2, 3. Wash it down with a beer. There you go. I mean, that's just the way it was. And I'm not trying to condemn anybody but like, all that stuff needs to be looked at, not just, oh, you got hit in the head, now now you've got CT. I think, like, a lot of things, it can be circumvented. Like, I just don't think all that research is honest research. I really don't.
We were talking about the Steelers. Man, Mike Tomlin, 3 playoff wins in his last 10 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's got the streak. He hasn't finished below 500, anything like that. But we're seeing a lot of, like, slightly above average football from Pittsburgh, but nothing great.
Right.
And so I guess the question is this a franchise that needs a reboot? Starting at the top.
Mike Tomlin's their third coach since 1969. There's beauty and stability. And listen, like Ben
But when does
Roethlisberger's
stability become stale?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Ben Roethlisberger in his last 3 or 4 years was not the Ben Roethlisberger that, I mean, he was a bit beat up too. There were some other factors in there, the Antonio Brown thing and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I mean, is Kenny Pickett the answer? Is Duck Hodges the answer? Or is like who else has played quarter? Mason Rudolph the answer? Is Mitch Trubisky?
Yeah.
Like we all know how important that quarterback role is, and the fact that guy is still winning a ton of games. I mean, his press conference, they asked him about his contract. We got 1 year left on your deal. You just, I'm out. Like that dude is one of the great guys and leaders in this league. Like he's incredible to talk to. I'm sure there are things that probably from the inside, if I was inside, I would look at and say, well, that needs to be better, that needs to be better. But just from sitting down, meeting with Mike Tomlin, watching him operate practice, watching him operate the team, listening to him talk to a production meeting, like that dude's got leadership just dripping. He drips with leadership. So, you got to have a trigger man, and they just really haven't.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, Cleveland, amazing story that they got as far as they did with the number of quarterbacks that they went through. Joe Flacco literally came off doing something like this, off the couch,
right,
to playing really good football until the clock struck midnight in Houston. How confident would you be, or are you, if you're the Browns, handing the keys back to Deshaun Watson?
Well, I don't think you can be confident at all because Deshaun Watson hasn't been Deshaun Watson. I mean, he hasn't been good. And, you invested all that money, all that guaranteed money, so you got to make it work. But, when was the last time Deshaun Watson was really good? And will he ever regain that form? Will this, forget about the injury stuff. Will this cloud hang over his head? Can he ever overcome it? And I don't know what the answer to that is, Mike. And, obviously you watch Joe Flacco orchestrate that offense, and Joe Flacco was spinning it early in that game. I mean, I thought he was playing great. And then all of a sudden, back-to-back pick sixes, and the rest is history. But, you're on the wrong side of a blowout. But Joe Flacco looked better down the stretch running this offense than Watson has looked since he got there. So I guess my answer to you is I have no idea, but if I look at the body of work since, he missed all that time, and since
2020 was the last year he had a good year.
Yeah, since he missed all the time, and since since the whole massage gate or whatever you want to call it, he hasn't been worth a squirt of piss.
But you got no choice.
Yeah, because you did what you did.
Right.
The owner did what he did. Jimmy.
Never. You always say,
once you hit a certain age, you need to become James. Jimmy is fine when you're a kid, but at some point you got to be James.
Jimmy Garoppolo? Would that be your advice to Jimmy Garoppolo?
James Garoppolo.
Or Jim?
Jim Garoppolo. Maybe there are caveats to every rule. He's just so damn handsome.
He is.
I just saw a whole layout of him with Travis Matthews. He's like one of their lead supermodels or something. Very handsome. Very handsome. Dude, I was calling.
Wake up!
I was calling a Niners.
He's in a fog.
I was calling a Niners game, and so I'm at practice on Friday. He comes right off the practice field, literally walks into the meeting, takes his helmet off, and his hair is freaking perfect. I'm like, how in the Do you have perfect hair? Like, you just took your helmet off. You were out there for an hour and a half spinning it.
Yeah.
You took your helmet off and it's
Perfect. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Guy's beautiful.
Whew.
Man, I love that guy.
Lady, I know there are ladies out there. If only my husband could look at me the same way that Mark looks at Jimmy Garoppolo.
I look at Tom Brady that way.
Or Tom Brady, yeah. Yep. All right, this thing has probably got off the rails. We probably should wrap it up and tell people we'll be back again at the end of the week to look ahead to divisional.
That's right.
Weekend.
We will be back at the end of the week. We'll look ahead to the divisional round of the playoffs, the best weekend. The best weekend in sports. No question about it.
Yep.
Some great matchups. We'll break every one of them down for you guys. We'll make our picks against the spread, where I'm currently 4-2. He's 3-3. So just like the regular season, the can of whoop ass has been opened already. But I'll give you a chance.
I'm just setting you up for like a Patriots-Falcons type comeback.
Oh, really?
Yeah. By the way, how do you think that Bill Belichick, Arthur Blank interview went the other day?
Yeah, well, what are you planning on doing when we get, if we do, in fact, hire you? What are you planning on doing at the quarterback position and with this offense? 28-3. Boom. Book it.
Have you ever had a moment in your life that you dealt with real adversity? And how did you handle it?
28-3.
28-3.
It's all he said the whole time.
Hold on, yeah. It was like we're on to Cincinnati, except just 28-3.
Yeah.
And
how would you handle practice on a weekly basis? 28-3.
Do you really interview Bill Belichick, or does he interview you?
Yeah, he probably interviews you.
Right.
Yeah, I would imagine.
What would you like to know, Bill?
Yeah. What would you like to know about my organization and my checkbook?
Yeah. That's it.
I would love to see Bill in L.A. with the Chargers.
Oh, so much fun.
Ever since that, what do you call those little Ring cameras with him shirtless walking through New England? Like him in L.A. just
surfing.
Whistle around his neck, no shirt on. Blowing it up.
Like right back to the 70s.
Let's go, Herbert. Yeah. All right, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Download it, share it, do whatever you do. Send us a comment. We'll try to get back to you guys on some of those comments as well. For Mike, I am Mark. We'll talk to you at the end of the week. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.